The Guy from Harlem is a 1977 blaxploitation film directed by Rene Martinez Jr. and stars Loy Hawkins as the guy everybody's talking about. We've featured blaxploitation films in this series before, but this one really leans into the formula that had struck box office gold so many times. The Guy from Harlem is a man among men, a brother's brother that everybody adores, respects, or fears. Ladies love him, like all the ladies love him. But he's a lone wolf, standing up to the man, as in Caucasian capitalists exploiting the African American community for their own profit. Basically, he's James Bond for the ghetto. Our story begins in a hideaway shack, where a young woman is being held hostage. Who will save her? Our hero, Al Connors, Private Eye, watching over the streets of Miami. An old CIA buddy from his Harlem days contracts him for bodyguard work, protecting the wife of a visiting African dignitary. After evading an ambush, they crash at a lady friend's place. Soon as the lady friend leaves, Al secures his client's perimeter. After delivering his client safe and sound, Al is retained by a local crime lord to find his kidnapped daughter. Al rescues her, takes her to the same lady friend's place, and conducts a debriefing. Then, Al tracks down the guy that's behind all the kidnapping attempts, a man known on the street as Big Daddy. After a couple of rounds of Al's version of Kung Fu, Big Daddy's operation bites the dust. This movie owes a lot to Shaft, which came out in 1971. The following 6 years would be a wave of blaxploitation films, and not just a parade of private eyes and pimps. There were also black horror films, black kung fu films, black spy films, even animation for blaxploitation audiences. In 1975, Rudy Ray Moore became an underground star by injecting his raunchy comic sensibilities into black action films, allowing audiences to laugh at the genre's tropes and conventions. So by 1977, when The Guy from Harlem hit theaters, the blaxploitation wave of the 70s had almost run its course. Perhaps the biggest name in the cast was Steve Gallen, playing the friendly neighborhood crime lord who needs his daughter rescued. On the Miami airwaves, Steve Gallen was known as Wild Man Steve, a local radio personality who parlayed his popularity into a series of raunchy comedy albums that hit the Billboard charts. Wild Man Steve had already appeared in such blaxploitation films as Petey Wheatstraw, The Devil's Son-in-Law, and Ain't That Just Like a Honky? After That Guy from Harlem was completed, Harlem's director would cast Wild Man Steve as the lead in his next film called Super Soul Brother, among other titles. It's a riff off of the $6 Million Man TV show. But the comedy stage would always be Wild Man Steve's biggest stage, until his passing in 2004. As for Loy Hawkins, That Guy from Harlem was essentially the beginning and the end of his film career. He remained in Miami and found more success as a vocalist in the local jazz scene for the next few decades. Grindhouse aficionados will think that this movie's watered down. There's brief nudity, although never in the same room as Mr. Collins, and the action scenes are just as much of an unfulfilled tease. In fact, the fight scenes appear to be improvised. For a man of action, Al spends a lot more time on the phone, and we get to see every second of it. This film should not be somebody's first blaxploitation film. It feels like a knockoff in the same way that so many post-Bruce Lee kung fu films tried to mimic Lee's magic after his death. That Guy from Harlem tries to talk the same talk and walk the same walk as Shaft and Superfly, but it can't. And there's something cosmically funny about that. An Emperor's New Clothes situation where they're trying to sell bravado and seem blissfully unaware that they're not. Movies like Black Dynamite and I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker do that on purpose with a wink and a nod. That Guy from Harlem seems earnest in comparison, innocent in its way. So, if you're a connoisseur of bad movies, if you enjoy clunky line readings and clumsy fight choreography, this movie is going to give you a lot to play with. It certainly charmed the Riff Tracks crew, who named their riff on this film one of their all-time favorites. And perhaps The Guy from Harlem might charm you too.